What is the stupidest thing you have ever heard out of someone's mouth? This just reminded me of the other day when I caught the edge of my palm in the filing cabinet at work, just as my lieutenant was making rounds. I'm standing there all FFFFFF, grasping my injured hand. He looks at me and goes, "Are you bleeding?" "Well, do you think this hurt as much as this?" And then he holds up his thumb he chopped off. Somehow, never heard the full, true story. Just know it was self-inflicted, by accident. And I'm like, but bro, apples and oranges. It's not like you cut it off at the same time I slammed my palm in the cabinet, in which case, he would win. I didn't say that to him, because he's got a reputation to turn personalities in a dime, so I just nodded. He legit did finger guns at me and left. Thank you for reading my ever so slightly adjacent story. I worked at a bagel shop and I had a customer come in with a complaint one day after buying some Nestlé chocolate milk from us. So here is how the story goes. We had a guy come in and accuse us of selling and charging him for 2 bottles worth of chocolate milk inside of 1 bottle when he only wanted 1 serving. I guess he thought it was a super large or something. We only have 1 size, and it isn't that big. His reasoning for thinking that, on the bottle of chocolate milk it says that a thoughtful serving is half the bottle, so he thought 1 bottle equals 2 bottles of chocolate milk and he only wanted 1. I had to explain to this guy that a thoughtful portion was just a recommendation by Nestlé that he only drink half the bottle because it's healthier, and it's not that there are 2 chocolate milk bottles in the 1 bottle he bought. Then he told us we should be less confusing. And then I had to explain to him that we do not own Nestlé and do not have a chocolate milk factory in the back of the shop where we make and produce the chocolate milk. Then he said he no longer wanted it because he is hearing now that it is not fresh, so he tried to get a refund on a half-drunk chocolate milk, and I had to explain to him that no, we cannot do that, and then he left in a huff. I know it sounds unbelievable, but it really is true. People this stupid exist in our world as members of society. I've had way too many people ask me this regarding slavery. Why didn't they just up and leave, or up and murder the enslavers? There's 50 of them and 5 of the family that owned them. Man, perhaps because a nation whose laws, economy, and customs actively supported slavery somehow didn't also have many pathways for escaped people to just waltz away and live freely, or much in the way of legal loopholes that would allow them to murder people without repercussions. Plus, when enslavement is race-based, anyone who looks a particular way walking around freely would draw suspicion from literally everyone who saw them. At an old job we had balloons in the office left over from a kid's birthday party in the restaurant. A server comes in and says, "Oh, balloons." She then picked a balloon up of the ground, opened it, inhaled the air and said hello all excitedly. She then goes, "Oh, why didn't it work?" Her face when I explained to her that wasn't helium she had just breathed in, but some dad's breath that had been in the balloon for hours, was priceless. Something similar happened to a friend of mine at school. We had practice and she was in the back of the huddle. With her hearing loss it was difficult for her to understand her coach, so she asked for our coach to repeat herself. Our coach yelled at her for not paying attention and for wasting time, so my friend apologized and explained that she has hearing loss. Our coach looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Well, you need to listen better." I randomly remembered that episode of Her, where a teenager is brought to the hospital after trying to circumcise himself, and fainting halfway, due to some chick who said she would never have sex with an uncircumcised guy. Then Dr. Benton looks to him, "Okay, I can finish the job or stitch it together." What's gonna be kinda sad, and funny, scene. USA specific. I'm from New Mexico. In high school, I was talking with a group of people in my history class about where we were from. When I mentioned I was born and raised in NM, one of the girls, she was from Cali I believe, got really excited and asked if she could see my green card. She had never seen one before, but she was positive that people in this state are given a birth certificate along with a green card. Because of the Mexico part, I had to explain that we didn't get green cards, because New Mexico is a state and not part of Mexico. My buddy's wife is from ABQ. When she first moved up here and was still using her New Mexico ID, the amount of times she got refused when trying to buy alcohol or cigarettes because, sorry, we need to see a valid American ID, was fucking astonishing. Especially because this happened in Colorado, and you'd assume people would know which state is directly to the south of us. I totally get the logic on this one though. Someone told him once that most diamonds are blood diamonds and cause untold misery, yet everyone buys them anyway. He sees blood oranges and probably has some vague idea that some food supply chain stuff is also very bad ethically, which is totally true, like cartel of avocados and stuff, and put two and two together, like, if you think about it. It isn't much weirder for there to be two well-known slave supply industries than it is to just have one. Dude is dumb as rocks, but if it's stuck in his mind like that and he never bought any blood oranges or diamonds, that's a person with a pretty solid moral code, I know. I answer the phones and triage calls at a vet hospital. Had a lady call panicking because she was sure her dog's heart had exploded after he ran into a stake in the ground and hit his chest and yelped. They then walked a half a mile home. No, she didn't carry him, and he was just calmly watching her while she was screaming into the phone. But how do I know his heart didn't explode? Well, ma'am, it sounds like he's alive, so that's a pretty good clue. Or the family sobbing because the doctor fed their dog a bagel with locks on it, then Googled can dogs eat raw salmon and found some obscure deadly parasite dogs catching salmon in the wild can get, and were positive the dog was actively dying. She made me confer with two separate doctors because she didn't believe me, then didn't believe the first doctor, then finally felt silly when the second doctor agreed human gray locks and wild-caught raw salmon are not the same thing at all. Or the I took my dog's medicine, what do I do? You have to call your own doctor. We only deal with veterinary medicine, but it was a veterinary medicine, yes. And you are a human. Working at a vet's office has really made me realize humans are way dumber than I ever imagined. Edited to add, since so many people were unaware vets legitimately have no idea about humans taking their animals' meds, I edited the conversation for brevity. There were several more interactions before this with us telling the woman to call her doctor, her saying no, it was her dog's medicine, so we needed to tell her what to do, culminating in the above and only ending after we informed her she was a human. I have actually taken another call where a client called to say she accidentally took her dog's medicine. I explained we can't tell her what to do, she'd have to call her doctor. She didn't disagree and asked me if it was a medicine also used for humans. I was able to tell her no, Apoquel was only for dogs and we honestly have no idea how it might affect humans, so maybe poison control was the best bet. She thanked me and followed my advice, and I don't laugh at that interaction since the woman was aware she was a human and asked reasonable questions. Lady above, on the other hand, insisted we treat her despite us saying we only treated cats and dogs until we finally had to forcefully inform her she was a human. That was what made the interaction so dumb to me. One time I had to train a girl at my work. I am a cashier. At our store we sell cigarettes, but every time you ring one through, it asks for the person's age. Often if the person is very clearly over 25, we don't ask for ID and just put a random age in there that is above 25. I told her I put January 1st. 1950. She then turns to me and says so I could put in January 1st, 2020. I looked at her and I'm like, no, are you kidding? And once I realized she was not kidding, she tried to argue with me. I tried to explain to her how they literally wouldn't even be a year old, as this was last year while it was still 2020, and she got very confused. Common sense isn't so common, I guess. My very diabetic friend had dangerously high blood sugar levels and was in the emergency room. When she was starting to feel better and expressed that she was hungry, the nurse brought her a white bread ham sandwich, banana and juice box. When my friend said, "I can't eat this, it's literally all sugar," the nurse looked her dead in the face and replied, "I don't know what you people can eat. Do you want an extra juice box?" I wouldn't have believed it if I wasn't in the same room. ETA. To answer some common questions, the term "you people" was in reference to people with diabetes when the nurse said it. I don't think she was an orderly. I saw her placing IVs on other patients, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the pokey find a vein part is usually left up to the medical professionals. I understand the emergency room doesn't have a magical stock of food for every diet type, but I am surprised she didn't just tell us that instead of handing a type 1 diabetic a box full of sugar and then offering extra sugar when she was told the patient couldn't eat that. The nurse didn't go near my friend's chart at any point. I was by her side the whole time she was there, although we did clearly tell her that my friend was diabetic. If my friend were someone elderly or without full understanding, she could have just shut down and made herself much sicker. That's the problem. Nursing aside, I don't think I'm wrong to assume that most adults, medical professionals or not, understand that diabetes means don't eat sugar. Even if she was an orderly, this is not a hard or foreign concept. It's a common disease that the general public is aware of. My friend had dangerously high blood sugar because her automatic insulin pump was malfunctioning and she didn't notice for hours. Through most of this time she was asleep. When someone came by her house in the morning, they realized something was wrong and took her to the hospital. She now has a new pump system and is doing great. This happened in Canada. For what it's worth, this is the same hospital that misplaced my father's body some years earlier when he died in an ambulance en route to them. But that's a story for another day. Either way, I wouldn't call them the most competent, just the closest to us. I was in a Warby Parker one day and there was a married couple being waited on ahead of me. I'd guess they were both maybe 50. The sales guy was showing them a pair of transition lenses and the man just could not understand them. The sales guy tried to explain them. His wife tried to explain them. He just kept replying, "But I don't understand how they give you night vision." They brought him outside to show him how the lenses darken in sunlight so you don't need a separate pair of sunglasses, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I get it now, but how does the night vision work?" After 20 minutes or so they gave up trying to explain to him that the glasses do not give you night vision. In 7th grade, during a science class where we were talking about volcanoes and the general information as a preview for what was upcoming in the next week, this girl who isn't the brightest, still isn't, and we're in high school now, said I thought volcanoes weren't real and just were myths used in movies like Mona. For the remaining 15 minutes of class we all started yelling at her because she thought she was right, and we couldn't get it in her head that they were real until the teacher gave in and showed her a couple videos, pointed out pages in the textbook, and showed her the rocks he found while in Hawaii. Overall not very smart, and she has said countless stupid things, but this one really sticks out because she argued with a teacher over basic knowledge. There was a girl I went to high school with that had a few good ones that left us all flabbergasted. My favorite was in 10th grade. Meat comes from a factory, it's not made from animals. Once we stopped laughing and explained to her the reality, she immediately declared she wouldn't eat meat anymore. 15 years later, she's still a vegan, and lo and behold, we are beginning to make meat in factories. Way to go, Stacy, you were ahead of the curve. I shit you not, I heard that the earth is hollow, and we live on the inside. When we look at the sky, we are looking into the middle of the earth, where are 3 spheres. Black body sphere is the biggest and it has dots on it. That's night. Sun and moon are smaller spheres. At night, sun is behind black sphere so it is dark. Also you can't see other parts of the earth just by looking up, because light does not travel in a straight line. It travels in a spiral. // I didn't expect for this to blow this much. Thank you all. As a reward I was able to find some source. It's in Czech, but images should answer some of your questions. https://alaska.org/tukazimnukaddenrocknyobdobi4dil / edit. The spiral idea really ignited discussion. So I should clarify, after reading source above, it's not spiral, it's parabolic trajectory. I remembered it wrong. Overheard a girl from the UK completely unable to understand that islands could also belong to a country. Another student tried to explain where she was from, but they got stuck at "so it's an island, so it can't be part of the Netherlands." Islands are not part of the country. I mean, if she was from a landlocked country it would be incredibly stupid. But being from the UK takes it up another level. I once was talking about how my mom used to have to steal food/clothing when my siblings and I were children so we could survive. Then my friend just says, yeah, but I bet you guys still ate blackberries. You can't be poor if you eat blackberries. Apparently. Edit, reposted comment. Her point is more that a little store-bought container is like $3. But that's still a dumb point. Like, if we bought them from the store it was a treat and we each only had a couple. We weren't even buying mass amounts of blackberries to have a full serving. $3 once every month or so isn't anything. In the same vein, I have a friend who had a doctor's assistant insist that a 20-gauge needle was smaller than a 24-gauge because the number was smaller, so that's what she was going to write the script for, even though he'd been getting 24 grams for years. For those unaware, 24 grams is standard. 20 grams is ridiculously large and painful. My friend and his wife eventually gave up arguing and ordered the needles they needed online. They also complained to the doctor about the idiot. I asked my student why she missed 5 weeks of class and she said while looking me dead in the eye that she had a nosebleed. Edit, this was a college student and I thought she dropped the class. She showed up to my office 24 hours before the final asking for extra credit but not having any of the work done. She did not make any prior attempt to contact me or the school about accommodations. I saw her regularly around the building and she was attended her other classes. To everyone claiming they someone know the whole situation and this is a disability issue, it may or may not have been. I'm not a doctor, and all she told me was she had a nosebleed. The lack of attendance or reason why wasn't the issue. The issue is the impossibility of a student making up 5 weeks worth of lectures/projects/homework in 24 hours and expecting me to figure that out for her at the drop of the hat. Pro tip: contact your professors if you're having any issues. They are literally there because they want you to learn. They will help, but you need to tell them you need help. There is a certain point, like 24 hours prior to the final, that no one can do anything. Edit 2, please keep sharing your nosebleed stories. Who knew there was so much camaraderie around the topic? I have a horrid suspicion this was /me/oh my lord, was said student 10. As a 10-year-old I had chronic nosebleeds that got really bad and made me very sick and weak, anemic, etc. No one knew how or why they happened, but I missed /weeks/ of school sorting it out, especially since it was the first year one developed hay fever and symptoms of some of my other chronic conditions too, just really sick. When I came back, a teacher asked why I'd been gone and I straight said my nosebleed got worse. I'm so sorry about your baby and for that dumb fuck uncle making it worse. What is it about death that brings so many stupid comments? Saw a woman at her 24-year-old daughter's funeral get comforted with at least you had her for 24 years. Others lose their babies at birth. I also got this gem at my mother's funeral whom we lost to medical error. Why didn't you give me a call? I know so many good doctors and the biggest WTF. A friend of hers told me and she had such a sad, drawn-out death too. Didn't go in a satisfying way like driving her car off a cliff. Lady, I'm never getting in a car with you. Canada is one of the states of the United States. One of the stars on the U.S. flag signifies Canada. You can drive into Canada like any other state. It's not an international border because Canada is a state. The lady lives nowhere near Canada. She was ready to take on all comers for the idiots there for not knowing that Canada is a U.S. state. This came up during a tangle of an argument about why the U.S. is referred to as America when technically Canada and Mexico are America, too. If this ever comes up again, I'll be thinking up a reason that I have to go anywhere else, immediately. My old manager always had something to say about everything. I was due with my first child and their old hand-me-down fridge died suddenly. We bought a cheap but perfectly fine replacement. She asks me if it has an ice maker and I said number. She then says, you should have bought one with an ice maker because now that you're having a baby you're going to be using a lot of ice. The kid is 12 now and has had 2 sisters join him and I still know why I need the ice.